Hello, it's Melissa Henig.
And I'm Chris King.
And we are here with the Wild Meat Retreat, and we are going to talk about knives today. I do get a lot of questions on fixed knives and pocket knives and what kind of knife for this, and is there one all-purpose knife for everything? So I've got Chris that is going to answer all the questions.
Yeah, it's a great question. People always ask, well, what's the best knife? What knife should I get? And like Melissa said, that big question of if there's one knife to get, if I can only get one knife, what would it be? And unfortunately, there's not one knife that will fill the bill for everything. Now, while most knives will work for many different purposes, so you can use pretty much almost any knife for butchering, for skinning, processing meat, cutting rope, whittling sticks, making tent stakes, any kind of sharp blade will work for those. But the reason you don't want one knife for everything is because the knife that you use for processing animals needs to be really, really sharp. And I mean like extremely sharp, like the sharpest knife you've ever seen. Like it's a really big deal that knife stays extremely sharp. And if you're using the same knife for cutting rope, for digging in the dirt, for doing all these different tasks, these utility type tasks, cutting up cardboard boxes, modern day stuff, that knife will get really dull really quickly. And then say you find a nice great roadkill deer and you go pick it up and you go start trying to skin it, and your knife is super dull and it'll take you a long time to get that knife sharp again. So what you want to do is have one knife that you keep almost kind of sacred, because that's your butchering, your skinning, your hunting knife.
Dedicated.
Yeah. Not used for anything else unless, an emergency and you don't have any knife. You got to cut an apple or something. That's acceptable.
Okay.
So let's talk about some of those different types of knives that you could get. Now, if this is your first knife, you don't have any a knife for animal processing or these purposes, this is the one we recommend. This is called a Mora knife. A Mora knife. They're Scandinavian, and you see these a lot in bushcrafting circles. A lot of the primitive skill gatherings that we go to, this is the go-to knife that everybody's using. And the reason that people love this knife, especially for beginners, is because of how the blade is ground. You can see how the grind goes up really high on both sides. And the reason that's super nice is it makes it really easy to learn how to sharpen with this knife. So you get your sharpening stone and you lay it down right on that grind and you can get a nice, clean, sharp edge, which is really important. Like I said, sharpness is paramount. It's the most important thing in a knife. If you've got the coolest, most expensive $500 fancy hunting knife and it's dull, it's not as good as a $10 sharp knife from Walmart.
Yeah, so. That's the first. After our first primitive skills gathering, I remember running home and buying the Mora.
Yep.
And I keep it in my car, actually, my Mora knife.
Yeah, so if your first knife, go get one of these. It doesn't have to be an expensive one. They've got one of these options for $15, or I think I bought this one for like $12 one time at a sporting goods store. So you don't have to spend a lot of money on a knife, but go ahead and get one and start learning how to sharpen it and keep it sharp. Now, another thing, you can have a knife like this that's dedicated for your butchering and animal processing, and have another knife just like this that's dedicated for all your utility tasks that you take camping, that you cut rope, cut boxes, whatever. And then you've got two knives for less than well under a $50 investment, and you're good to go.
You might have to mark them. They
look
exactly
maybe different
same.
Colors. I love orange. I used to be one of these guys that really wanted to have everything camo and earth toned. And then, you know what? I lost a lot of stuff. I left a lot of knives in the woods. So now I start looking for everything in blaze orange. If you're processing an animal and you got your tools everywhere and there's blood everywhere, it's really cool just to glance down and see where your knife's located.
And also, when you come to the Wild Meat Retreat, you get a Mora knife in your gift bag to skin animals with while you're here. Don't worry about the knife. We got you covered.
Yeah, we got you covered. So, right, everybody that signs up for the retreat gets one of these knives. Really beautiful, and you can take it home with you.
And you could just ship it home if you're flying in.
Yep.
Or check it. Okay.
So those are the basics about knives. I'm going to go over a few more knives that are really nice to have. This type of knife has a replaceable blade. So see, you can actually take that blade off and replace it. Now this is really nice to have because, you know, sometimes you're out there in the field and you're hunting and you don't want to screw around with trying to sharpen your knife. You can just take some extra razor blades with you and replace the blade in the field. Now, I don't, you know, I've used these a little bit. I don't love them because, you know, oh gosh, careful with your knives. I really like to have a nice knife, a real knife in my hand, and I also love knife sharpening. So, you know, I have one of these with me all the time, but I keep one of these with me too. There's a saying, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. If you've got 2 knives, that really means 1 knife in case you lose one, right? Or one breaks, right? So you always want to have 2 of really important things like knives. So I've always got one of these with me in my pack. It's light, it's easy to carry, and I'm 100% guaranteed that I got a real sharp edge if I need it.
Okay. So that's knife 2.
Knife 2? And most people have far too many knives. That's usually more of the problem. This is a multi-tool that I keep on me all the time, 24/7. I keep this in a little pouch on my hip from the moment I wake up to when I go to bed, and even sometimes after I go to bed, I have this on me.
What?
Yeah, I sleep with it.
Okay.
This has a knife on it too. I keep this knife really sharp because who knows when I might find some roadkill, right?
You have. We did once, and that's all you had.
Yeah, we processed a whole deer once, a
Yeah.
mule deer on the highway,
Yeah.
going to an event just with this one single tool. And you keep that thing razor sharp. This tool has 2 knives on it. It has a utility serrated blade, which I use for all my box cutting and utility tasks, so that I can keep this blade super duper sharp so it's ready to go all the time. And the other cool thing I like about a multi-tool is it's got a saw on it too. So I can cut through a pelvis, I can cut through a rib cage. Antlers, yeah, sometimes we see an antler, you know, roadkill, and we run over and cut the antlers off.
In Montana, they called it stop and chop.
Where that's legal, of course.
Yeah, don't do that unless it's legal.
Yeah, learn the laws in your state. But this knife, this has a saw, so you can process an entire elk if you want it to with this one little handy tool that you keep on your belt.
And tell them the story how you always thought it was kind of nerdy and old man.
Oh, yeah.
Like an old man always had this.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Now that you figure out they're really wise.
Right. I started seeing a lot of older men with multi-tools on their hip. And at first I thought it was kind of nerdy, but then now I know they're just smart.
Yeah.
They've actually gotten older and they've gained
Figured it
wisdom,
out.
and they carry one of these things with them all the time. This one's a Leatherman Wave, which they're kind of expensive, but I feel like it's the best tool. You can get one for $30, which is 70% of this tool, which will do great if you're on a budget. Lastly, this is a kitchen knife that I like to have. This one's semi-flexible, and once you actually got your animal home and you're processing it, this is a great knife to have for trimming, for cutting silver skin. Same thing, I just keep this a dedicated meat processing knife in our kitchen, and I hide it to make sure that it stays a dedicated
It's really sharp, yeah.
meat processing knife in the kitchen.
I have something. My pocket knife.
Oh yeah, see.
Really nice to have a pocket knife. We met someone in Montana that's a knife maker, and he makes these actually, and he said you're not dressed unless there's a knife in your pocket. It's like you don't even have your pants on unless you have a knife in your pocket. It's that important. But I have one more question, because someone did ask me about a fixed blade, which I do have a fixed blade in the house too.
Yeah.
But is that not as important as having the Mora, the multi-tool?
Yeah, so yeah, Melissa's asking about, fixed blade, which this is. See, this blade does not go in.
Okay.
And it has to go into a sheath like this, which hangs on your belt. The fixed blade is nice because it's super solid. It's not going to break or come apart. It's just a nice solid knife. The only downside is it's this big old thing that you got to have hanging off your belt, which, I think looks kind of cool. But, some people don't want to have this on them all the time. So if you've got a knife like this, or like Melissa's here, that folds open and closes and locks, of course. It's just more convenient to have it in your pocket. It's just more convenience, really. It's more portable, but you do lose a little bit in the durability and stability of the knife because it moves.
All right.
So I guess the big takeaway here is don't worry about what kind of knife, having the best knife or the most expensive knife or the right kind of knife. There's all kinds of knives. They all pretty much do the same thing. But what's important is that you have one that's dedicated, that you like, that's your favorite, that you save for animal processing, and learn how to sharpen it. That is the most important thing. And we should do another video
you'll learn that at the retreat,
on sharpening.
You teach how to sharpen the knives.
Yeah, knife sharpening is really an art form. It's something it's the simplest thing in the world. It's kind of like playing pool, but yet is ultimately difficult and takes a lot of time to refine and get really good at. So if you come to the Wild Meat Retreat, we'll give you a knife and we'll teach you all about how to sharpen it, and you'll actually get to use that knife processing a goat right here at our ranch in Arizona.
Hope to see you there.
Yeah, we got one coming up, wildmeatretreat.com, and you can learn all about it and see more videos like this and reserve your spot.
Okay, we'll see you soon.
Bye.